The Atlanta airport hummed with its usual chaos. Travelers rushing, announcements blaring, kids whining about delayed flights. But for Sergeant Marcus Carter, the world narrowed to the two cops stepping into his path. Their eyes locked onto him, like he was a problem waiting to happen. "Step away from the bag, now," the taller one barked, his voice sharp enough to cut through the noise. Marcus froze, then turned slow, hands up like he was surrendering to an enemy, not his own country. Around him, the crowd's chatter dipped into uneasy silence. A little girl tugged her mom's sleeve, pointing. A woman in a business suit clutched her purse tighter, like he might snatch it any second. Marcus swallowed hard. "I'm Staff Sergeant Marcus Carter," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Just got back from Germany." The cop, Beckett, his badge said, snorted. "Yeah? You always walk around in a stolen uniform?" Marcus felt the heat rise in his chest. He'd spent years earning this uniform, bleeding for it. Now some dude at an airport was acting like he'd snatched it off a rack. "I earned this," Marcus said, low and firm. Beckett smirked, exchanging a look with his partner. "Sure you did." The air got heavier. More stares, more phones lifting, recording. Marcus could almost hear the unspoken words hanging over him. Just another black guy causing trouble. His jaw tightened. But he kept his hands where they could see them. Inside, though, fury boiled. This wasn't the welcome home he'd pictured. Not even close. Before Marcus could react, Beckett grabbed his duffel bag and yanked it hard. The zipper tore open like it was nothing, and everything inside spilled across the polished floor. Neatly folded uniforms, his military paperwork, the framed photo of his little sister's graduation. Worst of all, his mama's handwritten letter slid right under Beckett's boot. The cop picked it up like it was trash, squinting at the slanted cursive. "Fake," he muttered to his partner Hayes, just like him. Marcus's hands curled into fists at his sides, nails digging into his palms. He could take the insults. He'd heard worse, but seeing his life dumped on the ground like that stung deeper. A kid in a Spider-Man shirt stared wide-eyed at the mess, then up at Marcus. "Mommy," his small voice piped up, "why they messing up the soldiers' stuff?" The mom shushed him quick, pulling him back. Hayes kicked at Marcus's dress blues, the fabric scuffing against the tile. "Real soldiers keep their gear straight," he sneered. Marcus forced his voice steady. "Check my ID, call my CO, just do your damn job right." But Beckett wasn't listening. He shoved Marcus hard against the wall, the cold concrete biting Hayes into his kicked back. at Marcus's dress blues, the fabric scuffing against the tile. "Real soldiers keep their gear straight," he sneered. Marcus forced his voice steady. "Check my ID, call my CO, just do your damn job right." But Beckett wasn't listening. He shoved Marcus hard against the wall, the cold concrete biting into his back. "You're under arrest," he growled, like it was some kind of victory. All around them, phones kept recording, dozens of silent witnesses. Nobody stepped forward. Nobody said a word. The only sound was Hayes cuffing him too tight, the metal clicking like a door slamming shut. Marcus closed his eyes for a second. 8 years in the Army, 2 tours overseas, and this was his welcome home? A janitor's mop pushed through the puddle of his spilled coffee nearby, the brown swirls mixing with his trampled papers. The smell of bitter coffee and floor cleaner filled his nose. Yeah, this was America, all right. Just as Beckett started reading Miranda rights in that bored cop voice, a new sound cut through the terminal like a gunshot. "Unhand that man." The command rolled across the crowd with so much force, people actually stepped back. Marcus turned his head, still pinned against the wall, and saw him. Captain Daniel Reeves, 6'3", of pure don't mess with me. His dress uniform crisp, and his eyes burning holes into Beckett. The silver eagle on his collar caught the fluorescent light as he strode forward. I said, "Unhand him." That's a direct order. Beckett's grip loosened just enough for Marcus to breathe. Hayes looked like he'd seen a ghost, his mouth hanging open stupidly. Reeves got right up in their faces, close enough for Marcus to smell the coffee on his breath. "You two geniuses even bother checking his ID?" he snapped, flicking the badge clipped to Marcus's belt. Beckett swallowed hard. "Sir, we had reasonable Reeves didn't let him finish. He turned to Marcus, his voice dropping low. "You hurt, Sergeant?" The way he said it, like he already knew the answer, made Marcus's throat tight. He shook his head. "Just tired, sir. Tired of this crap. Tired of having to prove he belonged in his own damn country." Over Reeves' shoulder, Marcus saw the crowd stirring. A grandma in a church hat whispered to her friend, "That's a real captain." Some college kid filming on his phone muttered, "They always do this to black dudes in uniform." Reeves heard it too. His jaw set hard as he turned back to the cops. "My office, now." The way Beckett and Hayes scrambled off, you'd think their pants were on fire. Reeves stayed put, blocking Marcus from the staring crowd like a human shield. He picked up Marcus's duffel, brushing dirt off the fabric before handing it back. For the first time since this nightmare started, Marcus felt his shoulders relax. Announcements kept blaring. Luggage wheels kept rolling. But right then, all he heard was Reeves saying quiet but firm, "Let's get you home, soldier." The security office smelled like stale coffee and bad decisions. Marcus sat stiff in a plastic chair, his dress uniform wrinkled from the scuffle, while Captain Reeves paced like a caged lion. On the monitor, Beckett and Hayes squirmed under Chief Morrison's glare as the airport footage played. Marcus getting shoved, his belongings scattered, the whole ugly scene on repeat. Morrison's face got darker with every second. "Jesus H. Christ," he muttered, pausing the video where Hayes kicked Marcus's medals. "You two idiots realize this man's got more honor in his pinky than you've got in your entire careers." Beckett opened his mouth, but Morrison shut him down with a look. "Save it, I saw enough." He turned to Marcus, his voice dropping to something almost like shame. "Sergeant Carter, the Atlanta PD owes you more than an apology." Marcus kept his hands folded tight in his lap, the cuff's ghost still biting his wrists. "Not here for apologies, sir," he said, quiet but clear. "Just don't want some kid to go through this tomorrow." Across the room, Reeves leaned against the filing cabinet, arms crossed. "Chief, those body cams better not malfunction before Internal Affairs sees them." Morrison nodded grimly, scribbling on a disciplinary form. Hayes opened his mouth again. "We were just following protocol?" Reeves cut in, laughing without humor. "What protocol says to call a decorated sergeant boy?" The room went dead silent. Marcus watched Beckett's face drain of color. Morrison slammed his pen down. "Get out. Suspended pending investigation." No handcuffs this time, no roughing up. Just two grown men shuffling out like scolded kids. When the door clicked shut, Marcus finally exhaled. His mama's letter, now creased and coffee-stained, peeked from his half-zip bag. Reeves followed his gaze. "Need help gathering your things?" Marcus shook his head, smoothing the paper between his fingers. "Nah, I got it." Outside, through the fogged glass, he could see the janitor quietly wiping boot prints off his scattered papers. As the door clicked shut behind Beckett and Hayes, the air in the office felt different, thicker, like the calm after a storm. Captain Reeves let out a long breath and rubbed his temples, the fluorescent lights catching the sweat at his hairline. Chief Morrison leaned forward, his chair creaking under the weight of what needed to be said. "Sergeant Carter," he started, voice rough around the edges, "I can't undo what happened out there. But I can damn well make sure it doesn't happen again on my watch." Marcus nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on the scuff marks Beckett's boots had left on his dress shoes. The silence stretched until Reeves broke it. You got family waiting? The question was casual, but Marcus heard what he wasn't saying. You got somebody to help carry this? Yeah, Marcus said, thumbing the bent corner of his mama's letter. My little sister's graduation was last week. Was supposed to surprise her. He didn't add that he'd missed 3 birthdays overseas, that this homecoming was supposed to be different. He didn't have to. Reeves's jaw tightened like he was chewing on something bitter. Morrison slid a business card across the desk. My direct line. You need anything. Legal, medical, doesn't matter. You call me. Marcus pocketed it without looking. The gesture was decent, but it sat heavy in his chest. No card could fix what that hallway had taken from him. But it sat heavy in his chest. No card could fix what that hallway had taken from him. Outside, the airport buzzed on like nothing had happened. A cleaning cart rattled past, the wheels squeaking. Reeves stood, squaring his shoulders. Come on, I'll walk you out. It wasn't an offer. It was a shield. Marcus hoisted his duffel, the strap digging into his shoulder where Beckett had yanked it. For the first time, he noticed the tear near the seam. 8 years of deployments, and it took one afternoon in Atlanta to break something. He adjusted his cap and followed Reeves into the terminal, where strangers' eyes still flicked to him, but this time they looked twice. Not at a threat, at a man who'd walked through fire. The terminal lights glared too bright as Marcus walked beside Captain Reeves, his duffel hanging heavy like a sandbag. Every step felt slower than it should have, his body moving through syrup while the world rushed past in blurs of rolling suitcases and boarding calls. Near gate B12, an older black janitor paused his mopping. Their eyes met for half a second, just long enough for the man to give the slightest nod. Not the sorry this happened to you kind. The I see you, brother kind. Marcus straightened his spine a fraction. Up ahead, a TSA agent, a young Latina woman with sharp eyeliner, froze mid-bag check. Her gaze dropped to Marcus's uniform, then snapped back up. Without a word, she brought her hand to her brow in a crisp salute. Not regulation for her position. Didn't matter. Heat pricked behind Marcus's eyes as he returned it. The motion, muscle memory Reeves after cleared his throat beside him. Your ride coming? The question was casual, but his eyes kept scanning the crowd like he expected Beckett to come charging back. Yeah, Marcus lied. His sister thought he was landing tomorrow. He'd call an Uber, swallow the $60 to Decatur. Near the exit, a little black boy in a too big Hawks jersey stared openly. His dad followed his gaze, then squeezed his son's shoulder and murmured something Marcus couldn't hear. The boy's eyes went wide before he whipped out a toy soldier from his pocket, plastic, chipped paint, and held it up like an offering. Marcus's breath caught. He forced a smile and gave the kid a thumbs up. The dad mouthed, "Thank you," over his son's head. Outside, the Georgia sun hit like a slap after the terminal's AC. Reeves hesitated at the curb, like he wanted to say more. Marcus beat him to it. I'm good from here, Captain. Reeves studied him a beat, then extended his hand. Welcome home, Sergeant. Marcus shook it. The weight of those words, of making it here, to this moment, sat square in his chest as Reeves walked away. A horn honked. His Uber idled at the curb. And for the first time since stepping off that plane, Marcus Carter felt like he could breathe. Marcus didn't see the first video drop. He was halfway to Decatur in that Uber, forehead pressed against the window, when his phone started blowing up. Buzz after buzz. His army buddies, his cousin in Chicago, even his old drill sergeant. By the time he unlocked it, the screen was flooded with tags. There he was, pixelated but unmistakable, pinned against that airport wall. Beckett's sneer, crystal clear in 4K. The kid's voice, shrill over the crowd noise. Why they her? His sister's call came through as the Uber turned onto his block. Marcus? Her voice cracked. That's you on CNN right now. He barely had time to process before his mama was on the other line. crying so hard he couldn't make out the words. The Uber driver, an older Haitian dude with gold-capped teeth, glanced in the rear view. "Hey man," he said, nodding at Marcus's uniform, "they did you dirty." It wasn't a question. Inside his apartment, Marcus dumped his bag and clicked on the news. There was Captain Reeves, mic in hand, standing on the airport steps like some avenging angel. "This isn't about one soldier," Reeves told the cameras, jaw set. "It's about every kid watching who thinks service guarantees respect." The chyron below screamed. "Decorated Army Sergeant assaulted by ATLPD." His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Marcus almost ignored it until the text preview popped up. "Sergeant Carter, this is Mayor Duran's office. We'd like to." He silenced it and tossed the phone on the couch. Outside, the neighbor's TV blared through the thin walls. Department-wide sensitivity training announced. Marcus stared at his reflection in the black screen. Same face that got him followed in department stores. Same hands that had pinned medals to his chest. The apartment smelled like dust and the lemon pledge his landlord used between tenants. He should shower, should eat, should call his mama back. Instead, he sank onto the couch and watched the sunset through the blinds, painting stripes across his still-packed duffel. The plastic toy soldier the kid had shown him poked out from his pocket. Marcus picked it up, rolling it between his fingers. Somewhere out there, people were arguing about him on Twitter. Politicians were drafting statements, and two cops were probably sweating in some IA office. But here, in this quiet, it was just him and that little plastic man, both still standing after the storm. 2 weeks later, Marcus sat stiff-backed in a too-small chair at the police oversight hearing, his dress uniform pressed sharp enough to cut glass. The city council chambers smelled like old coffee and cheaper perfume, the air thick with muttered conversations and the click of camera shutters. Captain Reed slid into the seat beside him, nodding toward the table where Beckett and Hayes sat with their union rep, all three of them looking like they'd rather be
Sergeant
anywhere
Carter.
else. Councilwoman Johnson began, her voice carrying that mix of sympathy and steel Marcus had come to recognize. "We've all seen the footage, but we need to hear it from you. What happened that day?" Marcus took a slow breath, his eyes scanning the room. His mama sat in the front row, her church hat tilted just so, hands folded tight in her lap. A row behind her, that janitor from the airport, gave him a barely there nod. "It wasn't about the bag check," Marcus said, voice steady. "Wasn't even about the uniform." He let that sit for a second, watching Beckett shift in his seat. It was about assumptions, about how some folks see a black man first, and everything else, service, sacrifice, basic damn respect, comes last. Marcus caught Beckett staring at him across the room, not with anger now, but something closer to confusion, like he couldn't quite figure out how this black man in uniform kept winning. Marcus allowed himself one small, hard smile. Let him wonder. 6 months later, Marcus found himself back at Hartsfield-Jackson, this time in civvies, just jeans and a hoodie, no uniform to draw attention. The terminal looked the same, smelled the same, but something was different. Near the security checkpoint, a new poster hung crooked on the wall. "See the soldier, not the skin," above a photo of diverse troops. Marcus snorted, bureaucracy's idea of change. He was grabbing coffee when a voice called out. Sergeant Carter, a young black TSA agent, couldn't have been more than 20, stood shifting his weight like he'd practiced this moment. "Just wanted to say, I saw what happened. You're why I joined the Air Force Reserves last month." He held out his boarding pass like it was proof. Marcus blinked. The kid's name tag said Jay Wilkins. Same last name as his high school math teacher. "You don't have to thank me," Marcus started, but Wilkins cut him off. "Wasn't gonna. Just letting you know, it matters." He tapped the veteran priority stamp on Marcus's coffee cup. They see us different now. Further down the concourse, Marcus spotted two white cops helping an elderly black woman with her bags. One of them glanced his way, did a double take, then gave a short nod. Not an apology, an acknowledgement. His phone buzzed. Reeves texting. Heard Beckett got transferred to parking enforcement. You coming to the VFW thing Saturday? Marcus smiled for real this time. Outside, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a plane taxied for takeoff, sunlight glinting off its wings. He took a slow sip of coffee, bitter and strong, and thought about how change never comes like a hurricane. Just quiet, like dawn, one stubborn ray at a time. The gate agent called boarding. Marcus shouldered his bag, same duffel, now with the torn seam neatly stitched, and joined the line. Behind him, a little girl in pigtails pointed at his Army veteran hat. "Daddy," she whispered, "that man's a hero." Marcus kept walking. Let her think what she wanted. He was just a man who'd refused to break. And maybe, just maybe,